Hello and welcome back to After the Whistle Sports Podcast. I'm Dylan and I'm again joined by Tony and Derek. I think the last time we were on here was probably, last week before the NBA Finals. Where it stands right now, we're recording this on a Tuesday night. The current series is 3-2 in favor of the Warriors. They'll be back in Boston on Thursday for a big Game 6 in which the Celtics have to win or go home. A lot has happened, okay? And I just want to start off quickly by talking about maybe a few of our predictions that we had from before the finals started and then kind of like what we feel about them right now. So I believe all of us actually had the Warriors winning in, what was it? 5.
I said 5.
Yeah, I think we all said Warriors in 5.
I think you said 6. Actually.
I might have said 6, yeah. What I do know, though, is Yoss was very adamant about an Andrew Wiggins breakout series. And truth be told, we have an Andrew Wiggins masterclass. Okay? I believe he's averaging like 15.5 rebounds this series, which is, first of all, it's absurd for a guy who's not like a traditional big, who's like guarding Tatum on the outside and also pulling down big boards. It's crazy. Last night he went off for, I believe, like 26 points, 17 rebounds, on like 12 for 24 shooting or something. Absolutely insane. All the while, like, basically doing a lot of the brunt work on the defensive end of the floor, switching on to Jaylen Brown, switching on to Tatum, using his length to basically bother both those guys. I mean, we saw Tatum airball it, I believe, like 2 or 3 times in the fourth quarter. But I just want to hear your opinion so far at this point in the series. What do you guys feel about kind of like the direction that it's going in? And I don't want to, like, maybe not a prediction right now, but maybe just like some quick things that you've noticed about both the Celtics play so far and the Warriors play recently.
So, obviously it looks like the Warriors are going to win the series. They've won 2 in a row. And they have all the momentum going into Game 6. Curry's coming off of a 0-3 made game, so obviously he's going to go off in Game 6, right? And so
like over under 8.5 threes.
God, probably under, but it's going to be close, I think.
By the way, the last time, I think, it was like the last time Curry didn't make a 3 in a game. The next 2018, the game after that, I think he hit 13 threes. So.
Okay, yeah, so it doesn't look too good for the Celtics right now. But from what I'm seeing, it just looks like the Warriors are playing better team basketball. Celtics are playing too much ISO ball, relying too much on Tatum to like create stuff. Marcus Smart is not a traditional point guard, which hurts the Celtics a lot because it means that Brown and Tatum have to handle the ball a lot, which leads to a lot of turnovers, as we've seen. But overall,
real quick, I just want to stick with you because you're usually pretty good with like the in-game like analysis and stuff. But what were the main differences you saw from the Celtics' defensive strategy in Game 4 and then in Game 5?
Yeah, so Game 4 they made Curry beat them, so they had a lot of drop coverage where Horford and Williams would just like drop off the screen and let Curry shoot these like crazy 35-footers that he was just hitting. But in Game 5, obviously he dropped 43, so the Celtics were like, we can't have that happen. And so they started doubling him, blitzing him, which led to the Warriors getting more easy baskets and more points in the paint. I think the Warriors outscored the Celtics like 50-38 or something. The first time they've outscored them this series. So we've seen a lot more paint penetration, I guess.
Tony, just real quick, what do you think is the best possible defensive strategy the Celtics could utilize in Game 6 in a win-or-go-home type situation?
I think they need to force some of the role players to hit the shots. We've seen what Steph is capable of, and obviously we want to minimize the impact of Game 6 Klay in addition in that series and try and force like Otto Porter Jr., GP2, a lot of the role players that would just be waiting in the corner and trying. If I'm the Celtics, I'd much prefer those closeout threes defensively than trying to do drop coverage with Curry, who clearly wasn't working with the bigs.
Yeah, I agree with the fact that the drop coverage wasn't working, but what the Celtics did a few nights ago in Game 5, I think is not acceptable from a team defense standpoint. Just way too many open looks. Look, even Draymond Green got points. And he was at the point where he was like afraid to shoot the ball when he caught it in Game 4, and then you could say whatever you want about like regression to the mean, but Draymond Green is not, or this whole series and honestly for the whole playoffs hasn't been a good offensive player. But I just thought the way the Celtics tried to defend Curry in game 5 was not like it's just not the way you're going to play this Warriors team.
Mm-hmm.
Like that type of defense can work against guys like Kevin Durant. It can work against guys like, I'm trying to think, like who's like a prolific scorer who like teams have run just like basically just like a stick on him, like a one-on-one guy, like Luka. Like the Warriors trying to do that with Luka, and I mean obviously Luka held his own, but they still lost the series. This Warriors team has too many weapons. They have too many guys who can attack the hoop, too many guys who can shoot, create off the dribble, and play make. And so what happens is you force the Warriors to play 4-on-4, and the fourth defender for the Celtics is Al Horford. And so like you're basically using Marcus Smart, one of your best defenders, your best help defenders, best on-ball defenders, sitting on the wing, guarding Curry like 50 feet out. And so what you're doing is you're putting a lot of pressure on guys like Horford, guys like Grant Williams to check some of these quicker, shiftier Warriors, wings, and guards. And what happens is you end up with like an Andrew Wiggins game. Like that's just what happens. So I think you have to go back to the drop coverage. Like if Curry's gonna put up 40 points, like he puts up 40 points.
I mean, yeah, I kind of agree with that. You're making Curry. It's like a 1v5 versus like a more 5v5 where the Warriors' team offenses, like their motion offense is obviously fantastic, and it could be any defense if you give them the opportunity to do that. But I mean, I think that's risky given Curry's gonna go off, we assume, and maybe the drop coverage isn't the best option. It's gonna be something that Udoka has to like think about. We'll see.
Maybe you like mix it up a little bit. Like maybe you do like some possessions like just try to throw the whole book at him. Like some possessions you'll run drop coverage, some possessions you'll hedge Horford or Robert Williams, some possessions you'll straight up switch it. Like you got to figure it out because it's a hard task. But Ime Udoka is one of the better defensive coaches in the entire league, and game 4 and 5 were bad. Like bad defensive performances.
Yeah, I definitely think switching could help a little bit because I know Marcus Smart's been doing a pretty good job guarding Curry, and Derek White's really good at navigating screens, and like relative to some of the other Celtics defenders. So potentially that could be a better defensive scheme.
Again, like sticking on the Celtics because I mean we've talked about the Warriors a ton. I mean of course we've talked about the Celtics, but like this game is really one where you need to see big changes from a lot of the Celtics role players. Maybe we'll touch upon Tatum and Brown later, but I mean, I was just talking with Derek earlier about the disappearance of Grant Williams. Like, we were talking, he was so important in the earlier series against the Nets and the Bucks for the Celtics. And I don't know if it's a personnel thing, like a matchup thing, but he's just, like, he hasn't played with that same energy. And it feels like he's just been taken out of the series altogether. Like, do you guys think that he needs to have a larger rule expanded, or, like, is he just at the point where this isn't the matchup that the Celtics want him on the court for?
Well, personally, I think he had a much better matchup against someone like Giannis, who is more of a physical, like, drive to the rim type player, versus, like, a lot of shifty wings. Like, the motion offense is obviously super difficult to keep up with. The Warriors are much more conditioned than the Celtics, I feel like, in this instance, where he's more of, like, he's not as necessary in this series, whereas I see other players like Derek White, maybe Peyton Pritchard, if Peyton Pritchard could step up a little bit more defensively, having much more impactful roles in this series, and Grant Williams. I'm not familiar with Grant Williams' shooting percentages this series, but I'm pretty sure his three-point percentage has also been down relative to some of the other series, so it's also just making some of those shots and offensive consistency.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this is like sort of what we thought before the series. The Warriors have a lot of really great and shifty guards, and Grant Williams is a forward that's more able to guard other forwards. Like you saw, he was pretty good in the Heat series, the Nets series, the Bucks series, because they all had prolific forwards, but they've never faced a motion offense like the Warriors. So you see him struggle now. And the issue is that his offensive game is just him shooting corner threes. The Warriors can easily guard that. He does not have a post game that he can punish these small guards with, which basically makes him a black hole in offense, makes it really problematic for the Celtics.
He's also been, we've seen the Warriors like to push the ball. Like sometimes, especially when they have the lead, they'll want to run transition. I don't know, this might just be like anecdotal, but like every time I've caught Grant Williams like lacking on the defensive end, like he's always like a few passes away from getting back in transition. And I think what you're seeing from the Celtics is a combination of having some like slower player, like they're running Horford, Grant Williams, like Robert Williams. Like those guys are great defenders, but like they're not like quick. Like they're not gonna run with the Warriors. Mm-hmm. And you're also seeing the toll of playing like 2 straight game 7s. I just think the Celtics look gassed. Like Tatum looks exhausted, and it's evident by the airball threes and like it just looks like he's like mentally exhausted too. Like I don't know what it is about Tatum, but he just doesn't look like he has that championship edge.
Well, so I think the exhaustion comes from like a couple of things. I mean, I saw a stat today that as of now he's played the 70th most playoff minutes in like a single playoffs, and that's not even including like Game 6
yeah,
or
but
potentially Game
remember
7.
like a few years ago when Jimmy Butler had like he played like 42 minutes every single game.
Tatum's playing like 45 minutes every game. Like we're seeing that now. The other issue is that he is basically the entire Celtics offense when he's on the floor. He always takes the ISO ball, and on defense, half of the time he's guarding Curry, so he has to chase Curry around. Even if Smart sometimes takes off the pressure, he still has to chase Curry around, and we see that.
So
take
are you making excuses for Jason Tatum?
Well,
does he not have that dog in him?
I personally am not a big fan of Jason Tatum, but I think that there are reasons to explain why his play has not been as good as some would expect.
Is that acceptable, Tony? Are you taking that?
I think he's also pretty gassed. I mean, having 2 series against super physical teams, or I guess the Bucks might not be as physical, but Celtics do play really physical.
Dude, the Bucks were really physical.
Well, obviously, like, Giannis is super physical, but, like, most of it was just
Dude, I saw Pat Connaughton getting bloody lips and stuff.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I just meant more to emphasize the Heat being a more physical team. But, yeah, definitely gassed. I also think the other players too, like Robert Williams just always looks tired when he's out on the floor, just running back and forth. Like
him and Grant Williams always look gassed, like at all times. Yeah, no, I agree with both you guys. I don't know like what the answer offensively is for the Celtics, because it seems like in like the first 3 games they basically showed what it feels like the first 3 games the Celtics showed everything they got, and to sit here down 3-2. Like, after, like, I thought they played well for the first 2 games. Like, they played pretty good basketball. And then to kind of see where they are now, it's a little bit disheartening if you're a Celtics fan. And, I mean, you're going up against a juggernaut with one of the top-tier coaches in the NBA. But, I mean, you have Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. Like, they could keep you in a game. Like, they can keep you in a Game 6. Like, we're looking at Thursday. I expect it to be I don't expect it to be a blowout. I expect the Warriors to win, but I think at some point in the second half, the Celtics will have the lead, and I think that's going to be because Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum are able to run the show.
I mean, I think another issue is just that the Celtics are committing way too many turnovers, especially Tatum and Brown just driving into like 3 defenders and throwing it and getting it deflected. Like that's just horrible.
I saw a stat that Tatum has 95 turnovers.
Oh yeah,
that's the most turnovers in single playoffs. Like
yeah.
Ever.
I mean, like I don't really know about that stat. 'Cause, like I think the second most is like LeBron or something.
Yeah,
it's like whoever has the ball in their hands more often is going to turn the ball over. But
well, you can look at like, okay, this is like sort of off topic, but you can look at like assist to turnover ratio and then like compare that, and Tatum's is horrible. But like that's besides the point. Like the point is that the Celtics need to commit less turnovers. Maybe that's like just the Warriors' defense being really good, or maybe it's just the Celtics being careless with the ball. But overall, they just need to be more careful and make better reads overall. Like,
well, one thing I noticed, which was absolutely brilliant by Steve Kerr, is I think we saw this a little bit in Game 4. We saw it a little bit in Game 5, but his rotations have been they've been more higher level than just, okay, I'm subbing a guy in who could fit in this part of our offense or this part of our defense. He's subbing guys in to allow Boston to attack that player on the offensive end of the court instead of Jordan Poole, which is that is genius coaching. It's like game theory. He's literally putting guys in knowing that they're going to be attacked, and he wants to do that because it's a greater probability of them not getting a better player, even tiring out Curry. You put a guy like Bjelica in, right? Yeah. And they're gonna attack him instead of Curry. That saves Curry's energy on the defensive end of the floor, allows him to score more often on the offense, and you just hope you have help defense from Looney and Draymond.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. I think That's not the only reason he puts them
I mean,
in.
it's not, but like that's.
It might
Well,
be,
why else is Bjelica getting in, dude?
I mean, he spaces the floor. He provides
Has he hit a
valuable
3
center
in the series?
minutes.
Has he hit a 3 in the series?
I don't think he has
He's
a
in there
single
to be
point.
attacked, dude. He's literally in there to be ISO'd and pick and rolls, okay?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, yeah, I have to agree that Poole is the biggest liability in defense. I remember watching like 5 possessions in a row in Game 5, and them just attacking Poole over and over, and he was just getting like sauced every possession. I was like, this guy's horrible at defense, but I guess he makes up for it for his like.
He has swagger. He
Yeah,
brings.
swagger.
He has the dog inside him.
Yeah, dog and good offense too. So.
Tony, if you're Ime Udoka, okay, and you're walking to Game 6, like, what do you think are the keys to that matchup? Like, or how about this? I'm gonna pose the question a little bit differently, okay? So it ends up that the Celtics win the game, go on to a Game 7, okay? What would you say would have happened for the Celtics in order for that to happen?
Well, to be honest, what I really think would happen is a superstar performance by either Brown or Tatum to will them over the Warriors in the Game 6. Like we've seen, Tatum did that in the Bucks series in Game 6 to force a Game 7. Brown had that 50-point game during what was it, the Heat series?
Yeah,
It might have been 40-point actually, but like we've seen they're both capable of putting up those types of high numbers. I think the other instance is one of the role players like Derek White steps up and generates more offensively, or decides that tonight's going to be the night where he's shooting lights out. But to be honest, I think that's like the only real instance. Like I think it would have to be a Tatum Brown takeover game for it to happen. I feel like a lot of people think we're due for a Tatum takeover game, especially because his record coming back from games, I think he averages like 6 more points per game after a loss or something like that, and much higher shooting splits. So we'll see.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that I think the Celtics, I mean particularly Marcus Smart, need to have more just like understanding of where they are in the game. Like Marcus Smart yesterday was just like an emotional wreck. Like
He had the technical foul.
Yeah,
and then the I mean, like
like,
the hit in the face of Poole, which maybe he didn't even touch him.
So that one was like clearly a flop, right? But you don't like Marcus Smart was just like randomly flailing his arms, and that just gives the ref the opportunity to call.
That's
a
like
foul.
what he does, though.
Well, yeah, so he needs to stop
That's like
doing
what
that.
he does. He
needs
flops.
to-
Like that's who he is.
Well, he wasn't like flopping in the situation. He was like you know,
Oh yeah, I know what
and
you're
then
talking
Poole's
about.
like, oh.
Okay.
But like,
Hey, real quick, I just don't want to cut you off, but remember the play where he was guarding Klay and he flopped
Oh, yeah.
and he like flew like all the way to the baseline and Klay had like an easy jumper, like.
yeah, like Smart needs to stop with those antics because I think it honestly it just ruins the team's chemistry and sort of just makes them feel like they're just like pissed off, you know. And it's just it's not really good for what they want to do as a team, especially when the Warriors are just like in such a rhythm and it gets them out of that groove. So I think that's something that's important.
I agree. It's like real quick. I'll give my take on this. Is I feel like if the Celtics need to win, I would say Robert Williams needs to. I mean, he's done a good job protecting the paint, but like he needs to do an even better job. If that like, to me, the Warriors are getting too many points in the paint. Like last game, I think they had what 2, 3 3-pointers maybe like from everyone. Like Wiggins and Curry had none. And they still end up winning by a solid margin. Like, those are all points in the paint. Like, how many times is Wiggins going to beat his man off the dribble and get, like, an easy lay at the hoop? Or how many rebounds is he going to get that he misses the first putback attempt and then gets another one and puts it back in? Like, Robert Williams has been really good in this series, but I hate to say it, like, he has to be better in order for him to even have a chance.
I also think offensive rebounding, I think Wiggins is second, or Wiggins and Looney are first and second in rebounds this series, which shouldn't typically happen.
I mean, part of the reason is that Al Horford's like a fraudulent 4. Like, he's like not. I mean, listen. Like at this point in his career, he's not the like rebounding type big man that he kind of was. Like, how many rebounds did he put up last game? I bet it's under 5. Should we check that?
Yeah, I'll check it right now.
All right.
Horford, he had 8.
Okay, maybe I'm wrong.
Or 9, he had 9, sorry.
Damn. So Horford's actually making. How many of those were defensive?
8.
Okay. I mean, 1 offensive rebound. Like,
Robert Williams had 3 offensive boards and 8 total rebounds.
Well, I think the other issue with Robert Williams, it's not like with him, but he's only getting 25 minutes a game. Like, for whatever reason, maybe it's because he has zero conditioning. He's too
can't
gassed,
play the whole game.
or he's like, he doesn't have like a knee or something. You know, like he's just too injured to play.
The Warriors are really smart, dude. They know that like the Celtics big men are like pretty tired at this point. Like every time he's out there, you basically see like a switch on to Curry and a blow by, and like that's like what they're trying to do. And what it does is it brings them out of the paint as well.
Yeah,
that's why it's like a double whammy L. Because not only is Robert Williams having to go guard like a quicker guard, using up a lot of his energy, but he's also not able to help and protect the rim. But anyways, I think the Celtics could win this next game if Robert Williams just is better defensively.
I feel like he's just not hustling, in my opinion. Like I've seen,
he's not.
Like he's not doing like. I feel like he's the opposite of Matisse Thybulle, where Matisse primarily blocks from behind.
Matisse Thybulle, shout out.
Like Matisse primarily, Matisse primarily is a defender that is really good at stripping the ball after getting blown by, whereas Robert Williams is much more of a contest them at the like.
Well, Robert Williams really isn't a perimeter defender.
Well, I just mean like in terms of
protector.
No, that's true. I just mean in terms of rim protection. Like he seems primarily like. If he's there, he's going to contest it, but he's not like going out of his way to try and contest shots that are like not directly his man, for example.
I agree. Let's go on to predictions. Okay. Maybe we can do Game 6, and then if someone says it's going to go on to Game 7, I'll hear it. Okay. Derek, who will win on Thursday? Game 6, win or go home for the Celtics.
I'm gonna go with the Warriors. Yeah. That's all I have to say.
I feel like you backed your point up enough.
Yeah.
Tony?
I'm gonna go with the Warriors as well. Like, yeah, I don't really have much to say about that. Like, I kind of predicted at the beginning. But
Unanimous pick for the Warriors in 6, just like I said, I think, before the series started. I mean, we have a little bit more time, actually, than I expected, so we can go on to some other random NBA topics, which should be pretty fun. I don't know, maybe we could pose a question. Also, if you guys don't follow us on Twitter, please do so. We're becoming a little bit more active. It's what is it? After the Whistle Sports.
Yeah, something like that. After Whistle Sports.
Yeah, I think it's linked in the podcast bio. So check that out. We might put out a tweet, and like if you're a listener from Idaho or Wyoming, we're having a little bit of like a heated discussion here. Like, who do NBA fans who live in Idaho and Wyoming support? Like, are they Blazers fans? Like, I guess in Idaho you might be a Blazers fan. Like, are you a Nuggets fan, or are you just like a Lakers fan along with like half the U.S. population? So, I mean, if they have an answer for that, and also if you are from Idaho, that is awesome. Please tell us who you're a fan of in the Twitter. Can we go on to the draft question, maybe?
Yeah, sure.
I thought that was a good one to kind of discuss, but we were talking about Andrew Wiggins. Okay, and his rise to prominence. He's almost like the prodigal son of this podcast, okay? He might be Jesus. But we talked about him as an example of a player who was really hyped up. He was the number 1 overall pick a few years ago. He went to a dysfunctional franchise in the Timberwolves. People said he was a bust. The Timberwolves tried to contract dump him to the Warriors, and all of a sudden he's actually playing at his potential. What are some guys who are on current dysfunctional teams in the NBA who were once hyped up prospects maybe could have that same type of resurgence if they went to a competitive team or a more functional franchise?
Well, I want to start off with saying that I think Wiggins is an interesting example because he didn't really I don't think his role should have been like a primarily offensive player or like the first option on a team. I think he's much more of a role player. But I think like the breakout of some players we've started to see Alonzo Ball after leaving the Lakers, and he's been playing like much better on the Bulls as a like solid perimeter defender, 3-and-D type guard, for example. Whereas his role was probably less so that when playing on other teams. I'm trying to think of other examples.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. For me, I'm gonna go with Rui Hachimura. A lot of people, or I saw some comparisons out of the draft comparing him to the next like Giannis, but like half Asian. I saw like
I
really good.
don't think his measurables are really like compared to
Yeah, I don't know about that, but I also saw like Paul Millsap comparisons. So like he was compared to some good players, but obviously seems like he hasn't lived up to the hype in Washington. But and maybe that's for a variety of reasons that we don't know. But I think that in the right situation and with the right fit, he could definitely be an extremely good player. He has great athleticism and really good upside. I think that that's really the core of the question. You have players with really good measurables, really good potential to be good, but are they put into the right situation to make them as good as they can be, or like put into the right role, I guess. And yeah, that's a difficult question to answer because we don't know what players would look like in different situations, but it's interesting.
Yeah, my example, and again, this could be super bold. I could be an idiot for saying this, but I was saying Markelle Fultz because I really feel like if he was drafted to a better franchise, he would have at least been like a solid role player early in his career. I think now he's actually a pretty solid player. I mean, he's a bigger point guard. He's a solid playmaker. He can defend. Of course, he's not like who we thought he was going to be at the number 1 overall pick in the 2017 draft, but he was literally unplayable on the Sixers for like a while. And I think if he was drafted to a better franchise who were able to actually develop a jump shot.
Well, do you think that the reason why he couldn't develop a jump shot was because he had like that shoulder injury, or?
I mean, that's part of the reason, but
do you think it was just
the injury itself was handled really poorly, and confidence can be attributed to franchise as well, and team, and kind of like where you fit into the organization. Like that's confidence. Like that has an effect on confidence. It has an effect. The injury thing is unlucky, but like he could have that injury and be like almost. Well, I'm not gonna say all NBA because like a lot of NBA players come back from injuries like completely ruined, but like he was ruined even before the injury on the Sixers. Like let's pull up, like can we pull up his rookie stats before the injury? Like Markelle Fultz.
I mean, I'm pretty sure he came into the season with the injury, but
did he come in with the injury?
Yeah, like everyone was like, "Oh, where'd this dude's jump shot go?" And he was shooting like out shooting.
Wait, I wish just like a video so you see that.
Yeah.
So maybe that isn't the best example. Maybe that was more just like external factors.
That was like a Greg Oden.
I think it is more injury. I think another player that might fit that category is D'Angelo Russell. He had a lot of play time for the Warriors, but just did not fit in their system.
Yeah. Ooh, what about? Sorry.
No, go for it.
D'Angelo Russell, I think it's fine. What about Jonathan Isaac? And you're gonna laugh at that because he's a meme now, but like he was drafted as a top 6 pick.
Well, yeah, I kind of agree with that.
And he has tools, like he can play.
Definitely has the tools. I'm gonna go out and say I'm a big Jonathan Isaac hater. I think he's just kind of weird.
No, he is weird. No, I take away the weirdness, please. Like,
no, but that's the issue. Like, I think that if you're like a weird player, it's difficult to like integrate you into the locker room,
Question,
like, into a team's
do
culture.
you think weird franchises attract weird players? Like the Kings, I feel like they always have weird players, right?
I think they make them
honestly
weird.
The Suns like have had weird, like really weird players, and like to me that's a weird franchise.
I think that the players become weird once they go to the weird franchises, and then they make up the weird franchises.
But like Marvin Bagley was weird before he went to the Kings.
Yeah.
Like he was weird. Like the Kings draft weird players. I look at the last few. Like dude, Phoenix drafted like 3 straight weird players. They drafted like Josh Jackson, Dragon Bender. Like they drafted weird players before. The Timberwolves have drafted weird players. Well, we're going on a huge tangent here, but like, what are like the top 3 weirdest franchises?
I think the Kings have to be up there.
Kings. Low key, I'm gonna say Trailblazers. To me, they've always been weird.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like for the past decade they've been a perennial playoff team.
Yeah.
I don't think they're that weird.
I kind of think
Maybe
I'm trying to.
Pistons? Like.
Nah, but the Pistons have like some semblance of like history. I think the Suns are weird. Like, but before the Suns got CP3, they were definitely one of those like.
Oh yeah, they're a little bit weird. Yeah.
Like OKC's a weird team. They might be the best answer for this question. Like they're like a really weird like.
I think that. I think that maybe just like. I think you're just like stereotyping like not big market teams.
Fine, the Knicks are a weird team.
Okay, well yeah, that's just true. That's just true. I have to agree with that one.
Like the Magic are a weird team.
To get back on the other question, when you consider DeAndre Ayton before Monty Williams as an example of a player who, like, not a great system, wasn't as developed?
Yeah, I mean, Honestly, I don't even think it's on Monty. I think it's like Chris Paul, like DeAndre Ayton without Chris Paul. Like,
Do you really think DeAndre Ayton is worth that much worse without Chris Paul?
I think he's like not good without Chris Paul. I think he's not that good of a player with Chris Paul. So without Chris Paul, I think he's definitely worse.
I don't know. I think we started to see the development of a jump shot a little bit in the New Orleans
Yeah, but he can't
series.
defend anyone.
No, I disagree with that.
You disagree he can't defend anyone?
I think he's a pretty good defender.
I think people like overhate his defense because he kind of folded a little bit against Giannis in the finals. But I
He
think
folded big time, like not even a little bit.
But like, yeah, but
That's besides the point. I think he's had like been playing pretty well defensively as of recent, and he's like a pretty good.
But does he have that dog in him?
No.
Absolutely
He does
not,
not.
right? He doesn't have Mamba mentality.
That
Whatever you want to
doesn't-
call
that
it, Mamba
doesn't-
mentality championship.
That doesn't mean he
mentality, right?
can't be a good player on a championship level team.
he doesn't have to be the first option. But
I know he could definitely put up empty 20 and 10 stats on like a not good team. Like he can do that. I just like, of course he's a championship caliber player because he literally played in the championship.
Mm-hmm.
But he isn't like going to make a team go over the top. I don't know. Is that a bad take? It depends on landing spot, but I feel like if you put him on a few different competitors around the NBA, I don't think he's the one who finally breaks him through to become an NBA champion. That's just my opinion. I don't think he has that impact.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Damn,
I
I'm
haven't
the
looked
lone
into it.
DeAndre Ayton hater here. Bam Adebayo is so much better than DeAndre Ayton. Like funny. But,
Alright, that's a take.
oh wait, guys, look through one more draft class. I'm gonna end this. I got 2018 draft
Yeah,
class.
you got
Looking
this.
for weird players, maybe some more franchises who have ruined careers. Basically, any of the Magic's picks, but like
maybe
Yeah.
Sabonis now that like he's on the
Sabonis,
Kings.
that could be solid. What about Mo Bamba? That was you talked about Mo Bamba before.
I did, yeah.
You put Mo Bamba on a, like maybe like a 6-7 seed in either conference. You'll probably make him better. He's probably a better NBA player than he seems.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it's just about situation, and I think some of it's also just about exposure to media. Like, sometimes you don't see players that are doing well just because their teams aren't exposed to the media that much. But
Yeah,
I think
like-
that, I mean, yeah, if you put Mo Bamba on, like, the Bulls, I think he's playing better, or he looks to be better than he is in the Magic right now.
No, that's a good point. One more draft class, guys. I'm almost done. 2019. I was looking through all the Sacramento Kings picks in the last like few years and how weird they all are, like the players themselves. Who was drafted in 2019? Who did the Kings pick?
I mean, RJ Barrett, I guess, is someone.
RJ Barrett's a good option. Wait, did the Kings not have a top pick? Who did the Kings pick in 2019? Did they not have a first round pick? No chance.
You know, I don't know.
How'd the Kings not have a first round pick that year? They were pretty bad, right?
Was Boogie still on the Kings?
No, I don't think so.
Wait, was that Halliburton?
Oh, it might have been Halliburton.
I can't find it.
I don't think it was.
I mean, Halliburton is he is another example because he is blossoming much more on the Pacers than he was on the. I feel like Davion Mitchell also could be a player
Oh
potentially.
yeah,
like
no,
that.
I agree.
What do you think about DeAndre Hunter?
I think he's really good.
But do you think he's one of those players that fits the criteria?
No, because I think he's too good to fit that criteria. Like
Fair.
he's played meaningful Eastern Conference semifinals minutes. To me, he can't fit that criteria.
Right.
Wait, who did? Why can't I find the Kings pick? The Kings pick does not exist in 2019, I guess, on the NBA website. Okay, here it is. Come on, who did the Kings pick? I don't think the Kings had a lottery pick. Oh, they drafted Lucas Samanich? Samanich?
Okay.
This guy's still in the league?
I don't think so.
Hold up.
Maybe in the G League.
Hold up, guys. Hold up, real quick. Sacramento, in the 2019 NBA draft, had the 19th overall pick and drafted Luka Samanic from Croatia.
I think the
Who-
Spurs had that pick.
Dude, it says the Kings picked him.
Okay, interesting.
Wait, am I going crazy? Who did the Kings get? It doesn't exist. Kings pick does not exist. Lucas Samanic. Okay, if anyone knows, please tweet it, please. If the Kings actually used a pick in 2019. With that being said, I think we're like way off topic now, a little bit out of focus. But thanks for listening. We'll probably get another one of these out. Maybe if this is a Game 7, we'll try to hustle and get one before Game 7. If not, we'll do a little bit of a season recap. Maybe we'll go into some off-season talk. Maybe some early NBA draft. Maybe like a mock podcast. I think that'd be pretty fun. But with that being said, thanks for listening, and see y'all next week. Bye.